Did you know that the words you use can make you appear less intelligent, even if you're really smart? In fact, research shows that just a few poorly chosen phrases can significantly affect how people perceive your credibility. Many of us believe that intelligence is all about what we know, facts, figures, and our academic accomplishments. But intelligence isn't just about what's inside our heads, it's also about how we present ourselves to others. The way we communicate can either enhance our perceived intelligence or undermine it entirely. The problem is, we often use certain phrases out of habit or cultural conditioning, without realizing how they can make us seem less credible, insecure, or even arrogant. Today, we'll dig deep into those phrases that are commonly used and often make you come across as less thoughtful or even uninformed. Let's dive into these 12 things a smart person never says. Number 8 will shock you. Ready? Let's get started. Number 1. I already know that. When someone tells you something you already know, it's tempting to cut them off with, I already know that. But think about it. How would you feel if someone dismissed your input that way? It immediately shuts down the conversation and can make you seem arrogant. Instead, consider responding with curiosity like, that's interesting. Tell me more about how you see it. This keeps the dialogue open and fosters mutual respect. For example, if a coworker is explaining a process you're already familiar with, instead of cutting them off, try adding something like, I appreciate your perspective on this. Let's see if there's anything I can learn from it. Let's move on to another common phrase that can have unintended negative effects. Number 2. No offense, but this phrase rarely prevents offense. In fact, it almost always precedes something offensive. Imagine a friend telling you, no offense, but I think you're really bad at this. The truth is, saying no offense doesn't soften the blow. It's just a weak attempt to justify a harsh statement. A better approach is to be direct but empathetic. Try, I have a different perspective I'd like to share. This way, you maintain honesty without being hurtful. For instance, if you disagree with a colleague's idea, say, I see where you're coming from, but here's another approach we could consider. Now let's talk about a phrase that kills creativity. Number 3, that's impossible. When you say something is impossible, you shut down any possibility of innovation. Imagine being in a brainstorming session and someone suggests an out-of-the-box idea, only to hear, that's impossible. It immediately deflates creativity and optimism. Instead, try saying, that sounds challenging, but let's explore what we could do. It shows you're willing to consider options and encourages problem solving. For example, if a team member proposes a challenging project, say, that's ambitious, but let's figure out how we can make it happen. Let's look at a phrase that makes you sound like a victim. Number 4, it's not fair. Life isn't always fair, and constantly pointing that out can make you seem like you're playing the victim. For instance, if a coworker gets a promotion you wanted, saying, it's not fair, only makes you sound resentful. Instead, say, how can we make this better? Or, what can I learn from this situation? This conveys a proactive attitude and shows resilience. Imagine a situation where a decision doesn't go your way. Focusing on what you can do next demonstrates maturity and adaptability. Here's a phrase that can make honesty seem like an excuse to be rude. Number 5, I'm just being honest. Honesty is important, but this phrase often precedes something unnecessarily hurtful. Picture someone saying, I'm just being honest, but I don't think you're good enough for this role. This kind of honesty is destructive. Instead, frame your honesty in a constructive way, focusing on the issue, not the person. For example, instead of saying, you're bad at presentations, try, I think there are areas we can work on to make your presentation stronger. This way, you're offering help rather than criticism. Let's continue with a phrase that tends to exaggerate issues. But before that, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos from us. Number 6, you always or you never. These exaggerations can make the other person defensive and shut down productive conversation. For example, saying, you never help with the chores will likely make the other person feel attacked and less inclined to cooperate. Instead, use specific examples. I noticed that I've been handling most of the chores lately. Can we talk about how we can share them more evenly? This invites collaboration rather than confrontation. Now let's talk about a phrase that avoids accountability. Number 7, it's not my fault. Shifting blame can make you look irresponsible. Imagine being part of a team project that fails, and your first response is, it's not my fault. It signals a lack of accountability and willingness to grow. Instead, say, let's focus on what we can do to solve this. This shows that you're a team player who's willing to move forward constructively. For example, if a mistake was made in a work report, instead of blaming others, say, let's figure out what went wrong and how we can prevent it next time. Here's another phrase that creates barriers in communication. Number 8, you don't understand. This phrase creates a barrier and assumes the other person's ignorance. Imagine you're having an argument and someone says, you don't understand. It immediately makes you feel disregarded. Instead, try, let me explain my perspective more clearly. This invites understanding and keeps the conversation open. For instance, if you feel misunderstood during a discussion, instead of dismissing the other person's viewpoint, say, "I think we're seeing this differently. Let me share my perspective in more detail." Let's move on to a phrase that shows a reluctance to grow. Hit that like button. It really helps us. Number 9. That's just how I am. This implies an unwillingness to grow or change. If someone points out a behavior that's problematic and you respond with, "That's just how I am," it shows a lack of effort to improve. Instead, consider saying, "I'm working on improving in that area." This signals openness to personal growth. For example, if you're told that you tend to interrupt others, instead of saying, "That's just me," say, "I'm aware of it, and I'm trying to get better at listening." Next, let's look at a phrase that often precedes disrespect. Number 10, with all due respect. This phrase often precedes a disrespectful comment. Imagine someone saying, "With all due respect, your idea is terrible." It's a passive-aggressive way of masking criticism. Instead, be direct but kind, like, "I see things differently, and here's why." This maintains respect while expressing your viewpoint. For instance, if you disagree with a friend's opinion, say, "I understand your point, but here's why I think differently." Let's now address a phrase that can sound dismissive. Number 11, "I'm too busy." Saying "I'm too busy" can come off as dismissive, suggesting that the other person's request isn't important. Imagine a friend asking for help, and you simply respond, "I'm too busy." Instead, try, "I have a lot on my plate right now. Can we revisit this later?" It acknowledges your schedule without diminishing the other person's needs. For example, if a colleague asks for your input during a busy period, say, "I'd love to help, but can we discuss this tomorrow when I can give it my full attention?" Let's cover a phrase that shows a lack of teamwork. "That's not my job." This phrase shows a lack of teamwork and willingness to contribute. Imagine your boss asks you to help with something outside your usual duties, and you respond with, "That's not my job." It's a quick way to show disinterest and lack of initiative. Instead, say, "I'm not sure, but let me help you find the right person who can assist." It shows you're willing to support, even if it's not directly your responsibility. For instance, if a coworker needs help with something unfamiliar to you, say, "I may not be the best person for this, but I'll help you figure out who can assist." Each of these phrases, when avoided, opens the door to growth, stronger relationships, and a more positive life experience. The wise know that words have the power to either lift us up or drag us down, and they choose theirs carefully. The key to effective communication lies in being mindful of our words and striving to uplift those around us. Remember, effective communication isn't just about what you say. It's about how you make others feel. When we consciously choose words that foster respect and understanding, we create environments where everyone feels valued and heard. It's amazing how small changes in our language can have a huge impact on our relationships and our success in life. Now it's your turn. Which of these phrases have you found yourself using? And what do you think about the alternatives we discussed today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your experiences. And if you're interested in more tips on effective communication, be sure to check out our video on 4 social skills secrets that make people want to be around you. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.